Breaking Bad, a dramatic cable series that changes the way Americans view television.
It fed into America's growing appetite for destruction. It had everything that everyone wants.
Just months before the series finale airs, one of the series' biggest fans plans to steal a scene from his favorite character.
Jason watches the show and says to himself, if Jesse can do this, I can do this too.
Jason thought that he could commit the perfect murder and get away with it, just like on the show.
It's a true copycat crime executed by a deranged television fanatic.
Jason Hart would be known as the Breaking Bad killer, and you have to imagine that as somebody who was that big a fan of the show, that there's probably a sense of pride in being connected with that forever.
In January of 2008, AMC adds a new TV show to its Sunday night lineup. It's called Breaking Bad, and the pilot episode is an instant success.
Breaking Bad was regarded by many critics as one of the greatest television shows of all time. People loved Breaking Bad.
Throughout the first season, the show's creator, Vince Gilligan, takes audiences into the troubled life of his main character, Walter White, who's just discovered he has stage 3 lung cancer.
He was able to figure out how to produce and manufacture this incredibly potent blue crystal meth that everyone would end up loving. He decided to sell crystal meth because he wanted to pay for his medical bills in secret from his family.
In order to sell it, he enlists the help of a former student and meth addict, Jesse Pinkman.
Walter kind of is a dad to Jesse, and their relationship grows with this odd couple-esque dynamic.
Viewers can't get enough of Walter and Jesse as they navigate their way through meth's dangerous underworld. But for one superfan outside Spokane, Washington, the show becomes an outlet for murder.
Yeah, man, oh my
For
God.
Jason Hart, he loved the show. But for him, it became more than just an obsession.
What do you think about the Breaking Bad correlation in this case?
About the Breaking Bad correlation, I think the only thing I know or feel about it is that was one of his favorite series. That's what he told me. I think he used it as instructions, you know, to go do what he was doing to dispose of Reagan.
"23-year-old Jason Hart always thought his life would turn out different.
Jason Hart was raised in a loving family. He loved to go fishing with his father, and he was kind of rambunctious.
Right? And then we're looking out there.
Jason's life was actually very ideal. His parents were together. For all intensive purposes, it seemed very nice.
But Jason is harboring a terrible secret.
All of a sudden, his parents started to notice him withdrawing. He got very quiet. He didn't want to do the things that he usually did. It was revealed that Jason had been sexually abused as a child.
Jason never reveals who sexually molested him.
By releasing that secret, there are going to be consequences. Who is this adult? And what role does this adult play within this child's life? And the consequences to a child, in a child's mind, may be far worse than what's experiencing now.
Psychologically, he was scarred, he was disturbed, and it started off this pattern that would follow him for the rest of his life.
By the age of 23, Jason becomes a regular drug user.
He needed to self-medicate himself just to make it through his day. Like, these drugs were keeping him going.
Jason internally was still suffering. He still had all the signs of post-traumatic stress disorder.
But then, Jason meets a woman who he thinks can change his life.
He met a girl named Jessica, who he was able to relate to, who he was able to open up to. And he didn't need the drugs for that escape.
The couple marries and have 2 children.
He did find a replacement for his drug use. Their love was like a euphoric feeling between the two of them. And there's nothing greater than the feeling of love. But eventually, in many relationships, that kind of feeling tends to fade.
You wanna go to the park later?
Yeah.
All right.
What's up?
Jason is unable to remain sober.
What is this?
Well, obviously you know what that is.
I know what it is. What is it doing here? You said you were gonna stop this.
When you're a mother with 2 children, there's some decisions that you have to make, and you cannot have a drug addict in your home, even if it is their father.
You're gonna do this right in front of them. You know what? Why don't you just grow up?
You're overreacting.
Jason makes a drastic decision that he thinks will help save his life.
For Jason, the only thing he thought he could do to support his family, to provide for them, and to save himself was to join the military.
But serving his country only seems to make things worse.
Just sit tight here. I'm gonna go get us some help.
So while Jason was in the service, he was deployed to Iraq. And there, he was exposed to all kinds of hell.
Oh!
He encompassed more psychological pain that just added to his post-traumatic stress disorder.
What's going on? What's going on? Hey, you all right? Whoa, 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 whoa. Gun down. Gun down. Gun down.
Jason was sent to a psychiatric hospital within the military. His levels of post-traumatic stress disorder, once assessed in the military hospital, were at such high levels that he was discharged with a disability.
Back at home and unemployed, Jason's PTSD causes him to revert back to his old ways. For Jessica, it's the final straw.
What do you think you're doing?
You caught me, okay?
Do I have to just throw that away or something?
Don't even touch it!
You're just gonna choose that stuff over your family, over your wife and your kids and all you've been working for this last couple years?
Look, you don't even know what I've been through. So don't judge me from this, okay? This helps me, unlike you.
Nobody wants their children ever to be exposed to a drug addict. She knew she had to get her children away from Jason.
I'll just take our kids and I'll leave.
Well, then go.
Fine.
Just go!
Jessica and the kids move to Oregon.
Once Jessica and the children leave, Jason, living off his military disability check, finds he has all the time in the world to self-medicate with his crystal meth. And he has so much free time that he develops another fixation.
Jason buys season 1 of Breaking Bad. Like a drug, he's immediately hooked.
I think during the height of Breaking Bad's popularity, social media was really coming into its own, and there was something very exciting about watching every episode.
Breaking Bad was Jason's new drug, and as he goes from episode to episode, he just can't get enough.
The lines of reality became somewhat blurry because the characters became very real to him.
Jason gravitated towards Jesse Pinkman because he could see how there were some parallels within their lives.
This is an invitation to find meaning. I'm going to tap into that narrative, right? I am living the life of a meth addict, and my life is rather meaningless.
After binge-watching Breaking Bad for weeks, Jason can't get enough. But then one particular scene in the show encourages him to seek help for his drug problem.
So Jesse meets Jane, his landlord, who was a recovering addict, and they end up in a romance where they helped one another, and she really helped keep him clean.
Jason decides that he needs to find his real-life version of Jane. So he starts attending rehab. And a woman there soon catches his eye.
And who does he meet but a woman also there wanting treatment, named Reagan. And the two connect.
But it's a connection that will eventually lead to a devastating copycat murder. The show Breaking Bad is one of the most decorated cable series of all time.
To further back up how critically acclaimed Breaking Bad was, it ended up being nominated 262 times for industry awards and won 110 times.
Across 5 seasons, Walter White and his drug-dealing partner Jesse Pinkman experience the fictional highs and lows of living life outside the law. And in the summer of 2013, Jason Hart is following in their footsteps.
It's as if Jason is using the show Breaking Bad as a blueprint or a roadmap to how he needs to conduct his life.
In rehab, Jason meets a woman named Reagan Jolly. They're 2 ex-drug addicts on a new path of sobriety.
Reagan, aside from being beautiful, is a simple country girl, and Jason likes that.
Although dating is not allowed, like Jesse Pinkman, Jason loves breaking the rules.
I can say the same for you.
Please.
Maybe we get a coffee?
Coffee sounds good.
I'm so happy. This is so perfect. This is so great.
Their relationship progressed so rapidly that within a month of meeting, she was already moved in with him.
I'm so happy. Come on.
Unfortunately, this is very typical in these kind of relationships that border on infatuation.
You know what? I got something that's gonna make this so great. Yeah.
Reagan is dedicated to staying sober, but the same cannot be said for Jason.
Jason intended to start using drugs again, and Reagan wanted to stay sober.
No, we can't do. No, Jason.
What?
No,
What?
I can't do
No,
this. I
it'll be
can't.
fine.
Jason.
Come on.
Are you kidding?
No, it's different now.
We talked about this. No,
Reagan won't stand for Jason's drug use.
Hey, we're gonna stay that way.
Reagan really cares for Jason, and she doesn't want to see him relapse.
No, come on. Jason, this is not going to happen. End of story.
And so she comes up with activities to distract him from the pains that he's felt all of these years.
It's the same kind of dynamic Jesse and Jane have in Breaking Bad.
In season 2, Jane took Jesse out for excursions to the museum and just kept his mind busy to keep him clean. And that kind of mirrors what Reagan did with Jason and how she kept him clean.
No matter what Reagan does to keep Jason's mind off using drugs, it isn't enough.
Wanna watch a TV show?
Yeah.
Put that DVD in.
Which one?
It's called Breaking Bad.
Oh, I haven't watched this.
You're gonna like it, believe me. It's one of my favorites.
Huh.
He introduced her to the show Breaking Bad, and he wanted her to become seduced by the show, like he had originally.
So what's this about?
He thought that maybe if she watched this show with me, that I can seduce her into using drugs with me again.
You know, Breaking Bad is about drug users, and it can be very tempting. It's not healthy, necessarily, for Reagan, who's attempting to remain sober, to be watching a show like this.
They binge-watch season 1. 7 full episodes of making, dealing, and doing meth. For 2 addicts, it's too much to handle.
Reagan sees this meth on the screen, and she can't fight the seduction any longer.
What's that?
Oh, you know what this is. Miss it at all?
I do. I can't.
All of the months of hard work that Reagan has put into her sobriety is thrown away in this moment of ecstasy.
Reagan and Jason's relapse sends them back to square one.
We're all out. We're out.
We'll get somewhere.
When that high wears off, the body, the brain, the person craves that high again and again and again.
Okay.
What?
And if those cravings aren't met, the person literally goes crazy.
No, like right now, we have to get some.
Yes.
Okay, so what are you doing? Let's go. Let's go. Get dressed.
It's a vicious cycle that eventually leaves them penniless.
Jason and Reagan are using drugs, and they are blowing through money to pay for their habit. So they had to figure out a way to get more money.
The cash-strapped couple copies Jesse and Jane's relationship in Breaking Bad.
In season 2 of Breaking Bad, Jane and Jesse are gonna blackmail Walter White and just run off with all this money. And Reagan and Jason didn't really have someone that they could just get some large amount of money from and live happily ever after.
Instead, they take in a roommate named Dean and his wife as a way to help pay the bills.
So Jason and Reagan invited Dean and his wife to move in. They had known Dean from rehab, and with Dean and his wife paying rent, Jason and Reagan felt that this could supplement their income so they could buy more crystal meth to feed their addiction.
Yeah, I'll take it now. Oh, great. And every week, okay? Yeah. Don't be late with it. You got it?
The more money they make, the more drugs they can buy. And the more drugs Jason does, the angrier he becomes.
Jason is irritable and angry, and the drugs only accentuate his anger. And they're no longer the escape that they once used to be.
Jason's problems may stem from his struggles with PTSD.
With PTSD, the person overreacts to whatever trauma has happened to them in the past. We all have memories, and we all have past trauma. But with post-traumatic stress disorder, the individual is triggered because the trauma is so great that they can't handle it.
Jason's PTSD causes him to lash out at Reagan unexpectedly.
Psychologically, because of the powerful drug and because of all that repressed conflict and anxiety, it was who was around who then would become the brunt of his rage. And of course, the only one that was around was Reagan.
I'd love to help you if I can.
I don't need any help.
Okay, that's fine.
You can go.
Okay, you sure you don't need anything?
Yeah, I'm good.
Sweetie, come on, let's go inside.
I said I'm good.
Babe, it's okay. Babe, I think you had too much, all right? Let's
Too much of what?
Stop
You're
it.
pissing me off.
You need a break,
You're
all right?
pissing me
Babe,
off.
stop it.
Don't tell me what to do.
Do not touch me.
Don't tell me what to do!
Stop it!
Get out of here! Whoa! Calm down.
And just like in Breaking Bad, Reagan and Jason's relationship will have a tragic ending.
In season 2 of Breaking Bad, Jane and Jesse do eventually do drugs, which ended with Jane's death from an overdose. And it was a big moment in the show just because you had seen Jesse get clean with Jane, and you were kind of hoping things might work out well. Not the case.
Like his idol, Jesse Pinkman, Jason's about to make a life-changing mistake.
Jason was a ticking time bomb, and it was only a matter of time before he would explode and do something horrible.
The critically acclaimed television show Breaking Bad is named one of TV Guide's top 10 shows of all time.
People were obsessed with Breaking Bad. People were streaming it, they were addicted. This was one of the first shows that people really did sit down and just plow through the seasons.
Despite its graphic violence and over-the-top drug use, fans feel a strong connection to the show.
I have to give credit to the writers because they took a show that involved a lot of situations most people won't find themselves in and made it relatable. They just made the world fall in love with almost all of the characters and held us all on the edge of our chair.
For Breaking Bad fanatic Jason Hart, the show's drug storyline hits close to home. He's a meth addict struggling with PTSD who takes out his anger on his girlfriend, Reagan Jolly.
When you're faced with an individual who has post-traumatic stress disorder, they go into these overreactive, counterproductive panic mode where it's do or die.
It's okay,
Jason and Reagan got into a very bad argument.
Don't tell me what to do.
Do not touch me.
Don't tell me what to do!
Jason is so irate, he's so angry, he picks up a hammer, he swings it so close to her head that Dean had to intervene. If he was not there, Reagan would have died that very day.
The idea of killing Reagan to a sane person makes no sense. But to someone like Jason, with a history of post-traumatic stress disorder, coupled with his addiction to crystal meth, in that skewed brain, to him, it was the only choice, the only solution.
After the incident, Jason decides that he no longer wants to be with Reagan.
He doesn't want her there anymore. She's making his life harder than what it should be. Reagan is no longer the woman that he fell in love with, and she has to go.
His untreated battle with PTSD fuels his rage.
In Jason's mind, as a soldier, encoded in his DNA, he had to eliminate the enemy. And the enemy was Reagan.
But he doesn't know how to get rid of her. Until he rewatches his favorite show, Breaking Bad.
He turns straight to Breaking Bad and his meth. And it's not until he watches season 1, episode 2, that he realizes how he'll get away with murder.
In episode 2, entitled Cat in the Bag, Walter and Jesse have to dispose of a dead body, so they end up dumping it into a tub with sulfuric acid.
Walter tells Jesse the acid will disintegrate the body. Then they'll flush the acid down the toilet, leaving no evidence.
Jason related so directly to the show. It gave him the instructions that he needed to actually feel confident in killing Reagan. He says to himself, if Jesse can do this, I can do this too.
He's watching someone who is more than just an addict, but is actually doing remarkable things, notorious things, but remarkable things that are high stake with dramatic implications.
Jason's writing his own episode of Breaking Bad. He has the who and the how. Now he just needs the where.
He has an aha moment. There's actually this garage out back that's separate from the house. The garage was close to the house, but no one ever went in there. He knows that he has privacy in his garage, and if he can get Reagan to the garage, then he can get rid of her without anyone ever knowing.
That same day, Jason heads to the store to buy the chemicals he needs to commit the crime. He's the real-life Jesse Pinkman, following Walter's instructions.
In the show, Walter gives Jesse very specific instructions, including sulfuric acid and a special kind of plastic tub that he wants him to get. Jesse follows it, but not to a T, and ends up putting the body in the bathtub upstairs, which ends with everything dissolving, including the bathtub, and the contents spilling down onto the floor in front of him.
The tub scene in Breaking Bad is a perfect example of the dark humor that brings in big ratings. But in reality, disposing of someone's body in sulfuric acid isn't as easy as it is on television.
He needs sulfuric acid, but you can't buy that in the store. So he finds the closest thing, which is drain cleaner, and it has sulfuric acid in it. He also buys the plastic tub, and he buys a chemistry book. He's seen Jesse's mistakes on the episode of Breaking Bad, and he's not going to make those same mistakes.
So Jason had to sneak all the items he bought back into his garage. And it became like a covert mission. He had to be sneaky. He had to be like Walter and Jesse. He had to be undercover.
One day after buying the materials at the hardware store, Jason intends to carry out his plan. His battle with drug addiction and PTSD has made Jason believe that his girlfriend is the cause of all of his problems.
Jason was in one of his highs. All that repressed trauma from the post-traumatic stress that he carried around with him would bubble out into this rage and this anger to destroy and get even.
he's just waiting for the moment that he can kill Reagan.
Jason knows it's time to put his plan into action.
But, of course, there's always someone home. But today, Dean and his wife are going into the city, and so he'll finally have Reagan alone.
Jason knows it's time to put his plan into action. Vince Gilligan's Breaking Bad takes viewers on a wild ride from Walter White's high school chemistry lab to Jesse Pinkman's seedy underworld of selling meth.
People really liked the pairing of Walter and Jesse. Even though they've done terrible things, you've seen the journey that they both took, and it just made everybody have this deeper connection to them.
This anti-hero, it fits in the bedrock of the American tradition, you know, this individualism, this self-determination, this going it alone. These really reverberate with us.
For one fan named Jason Hart, Breaking Bad is his script for life.
Jason Hart was a drug addict. He was addicted to crystal meth. He was also consumed with the show Breaking Bad. He also believed that the show was instructing him to commit murder.
In an episode of Breaking Bad, Walter and Jesse fill up a tub with acid and dump a dead body in order to hide a murder.
For Jason, he buys the same supplies that Walter and Jesse have bought on Breaking Bad. He hides them in his car. He drives them home and sneaks them into his garage.
With Dean and his wife out of the house, Jason decides it's time to act.
As soon as he's ready to make his move, he gets a knock on the door.
Auntie.
Reagan, honey, it's been too long.
Oh, I know.
It's Reagan's aunt.
How you feeling? Okay, it's been hard.
She's coming over because she cares. She's coming over because she wants to check up on them. Make sure everything's okay.
I'm doing better. You sure?
He cannot believe that this woman has come here and that she's ruining his plans right now. He is upset and he cannot hold it in. He's doing all of those things that he does when he's high and he's angry. He wants this woman gone right now. He has to make his move. It's only a certain amount of time that he has before Dean comes home.
Hi, very nice to meet you. Now, take care.
He gets so angry with her that he has to escort her out himself.
Hey, Dean. Yeah, it's me. I'm really sorry to bother you guys. Jason's just acting really weird. Do you guys mind coming home? I really don't feel safe alone with him right now. I'll see you guys soon. Okay, bye.
What was that?
So it becomes now or never.
Jason, stop. Okay. Jason!
And he grabs her with such force that she's unable to grab any objects to protect herself.
After only a few minutes, Reagan is dead. But Jason knows he can't waste any time. Dean is on his way home, and Jason needs to get rid of Reagan's body.
He pours all of the drain cleaner on top of it, and then he puts the lid on it. And the moment he does that, Dean pulls up to the house.
It's just like in Breaking Bad when Jesse is disposing of his first body.
So in the show, Walter's wife, Skylar, comes in and Jesse has to kind of distract her because the body is in the driveway and he's trying to get her out of there so that he can continue with it.
Jason now finds himself in a similar situation.
Hey guys, what's going on? Reagan called us. She said you guys were fighting. No women are. Lights on in the garage. Is it? Is Reagan out in the garage?
He notices that Jason just came from the garage and he said, "What's going on in the garage?" And Jason says, "You don't want to know. You don't want to go out there." So everyone goes to sleep. Jason is exhausted. He's just killed someone. But Dean can't sleep. In his gut, he knows that something is not right about that garage. He enters the garage and there's no sign of life there. But he sees a puddle on the ground.
I went in the garage and there was a puddle of water, and the garage didn't have any water in there. A puddle of water on the floor, so I went that direction, the direction I normally wouldn't go in.
So he follows the trail of water, which leads him to this red bin.
And that's when I found Reagan.
And in that moment of shock and horror, he immediately becomes fearful for his own life.
I'd like to report a murder.
In the final episode of Breaking Bad, the fate of Walter White and Jesse Pinkman are revealed.
It's been called one of the best season finales of all time. Everyone was so excited. They didn't know how things were gonna end. Will they get caught? We've seen them get out of a lot of situations, and it was just one of those moments where you had to know, you had to see it.
But no matter how much Breaking Bad fan Jason Hart yearns to be like his idol, Jesse Pinkman, no one is rooting for Jason to get away with murder. Like a scene out of Breaking Bad, Jason kills his girlfriend, Reagan Jolly, and dumps her body in a vat of acid. Now he's fast asleep in his bedroom, like nothing ever happened.
He has committed murder. So there's a psychological crash. Within his skewed brain, he blamed Reagan for everything. And Reagan became the source of his conflict. And so once he destroyed what he viewed was his conflict, he then slept soundly.
As Jason sleeps, he has no idea that his roommate Dean has discovered Reagan's body in the garage in the early hours of the morning.
I'd like to report a murder.
For Dean, the shock of seeing Reagan dead, he himself is in such fear and fearful that his wife will be Jason's next victims.
Dean calls the police, who arrive to the home just as Jason begins to wake in the morning.
Jason Hart! Jason Hart, come outside with your hands up!
While Jason gets up, looks out the window, and the house is surrounded. There are the police. There's the SWAT team. There's hazmat. Everybody is there to get Jason.
A standoff ensues.
The police fire a smoke grenade into his bedroom. But of course, this is the worst thing you could do to someone who's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. It triggers an avalanche of emotions and sends Jason into a overreactive fear that once again he's back in the military and he's being attacked and his life is in jeopardy.
Jason's current situation is eerily similar to the first episode of Breaking Bad.
So when we meet Jesse Pinkman in the show, there's a big raid and everybody's getting arrested and Jesse manages to escape out the window. That's where we come in on his life.
After a 4-hour standoff with police, Jason knows his ending will be different from Jesse Pinkman's.
Jason now knows, with the police having surrounded his home, that this is it. Like a true drug addict, he smokes his last bowl of crystal meth. And with that, as his last high, at least in his mind for a long time.
At 11:24 a.m., Jason Hart exits his house.
Please don't move!
The standoff is over, but Jason's copycat crime is still unfolding.
The police go into the garage and they find Reagan right where Dean said she was. That's when they knew they were dealing with a complete psychopath.
Inside the home, more evidence is found that points to Jason's motivation for the crime.
Once the police have Jason in custody, they do a thorough search of his home. After they find the materials that he used for Reagan's murder, the next thing they found was Breaking Bad in the DVD player. Cue to episode number 2.
The only thing I know or feel about it is that was one of his favorite series. That's what he told me. I think he used it as instructions, you know, to go do what he was doing to dispose of Reagan.
Jason pleads guilty to second-degree murder.
Guilty, ma'am.
You make this plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, ma'am.
Court documents reveal his acidic solution was nowhere near as strong as in the TV show Breaking Bad.
Ultimately, Jason failed Walt's instructions, and he was bound to get caught at some point.
Jason is sentenced to 14 years in prison.
While Jason was awaiting trial, the last season of Breaking Bad aired, and while everyone was glued to the television, the person who was most inspired by that show never had the opportunity to see how it ended.
Jason becomes known as the Breaking Bad Killer. It's the closest he'll ever be to his idols, Walter White and Jesse Pinkman.
So whether he liked it or not, that name, that show, those characters are gonna follow him for the rest of his life. He'll never be able to just turn off that show. It is him now, forever.